start.
Okay.
So this is Dre with Yourself.Podcast, and she will be answering some of our questions that we've had. And we've been wanting to get her on this podcast because she's done such a great job on TikTok, spreading awareness about mental health issues and mental health care, self-care, self-worth, all of the things that are beautiful to the mind and beautiful for the soul. And we're so thankful and grateful for your time today and for all the listeners out there. And hopefully people will be strengthened and enlightened today with today's podcast. And to catch this on a later date, this same podcast will be broadcasted on YouTube, not this Friday, but the following Friday. It will be posted at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, Darcy, what I wanted to know at first was, what kind of situations is 988 designed for? Is it only for unaliving thoughts, or is it a broader mental health kind of crisis center?
I'll tell you that 988 is designed for anyone of any age for any reason around mental health, either your own mental health or someone else's. Now, we do help people prevent the S word, because we can't say it here on TT, but we want people to call us before they get to the point where they are experiencing any sort of ideation. Because if you are in crisis, we can help you. We can certainly help you provide that caring, compassionate listening ear. But we want you to call if you've had a bad day, if you are feeling like you're alone. And it truly is that place where you can go so that you can release whatever is going on. It's person to person. Let us know how you're doing. We really have our finger on the pulse of the emotional health of so many people in our region. Thank you so much, My Life DYI. I appreciate that daily heart me. So we want to make sure that people know that anyone of any age can call for any reason around your mental health and wellness. Now, if you are feeling suicidal, if you have ideation, please do give us a call. We want this to be as recognizable as 911 is for other types of emergencies, but for an emotional emergency, we want to make sure that people are reaching out to 988.
Okay. So if it's anybody who can call or text to 988, what should they expect within the first few minutes of their call or their text?
So if you call, text, or chat, you will be met by a trained, caring, compassionate listener who has been specially trained to work on the 988 hotline to listen to you 90% of the time and talk 10% of the time. So they're also specially trained so that they can allow you to talk about what you need to without feeling as if you're going to be judged, right? You're not going to get advice, but you're going to be guided to talk about your pain and to maybe find your own solutions around things, right? So here's what you can expect. If you call, you'll be met with, if you dial 988, you will be met with a automated voice recording that says, "Thank you for calling the 988 Lifeline." If you're a veteran, press 1. If you speak Spanish, press 2. And then stay on the line to be directed to your nearest crisis center. If you're in Massachusetts, you'll be directed toward us and we will pick up. And then that caring, compassionate listener will greet you, ask you your name, and ask you at the outset of the call, are you suicidal? Why do they ask you that? Because they want to be sure that they know which way the call is going to go for you if they need to provide you with that life-saving intervention right away. Okay, so I hope that helps people and breaks down the fear around giving us a call. Texting and chatting, you're going to get the same service, except it's going to be in a text or chat.
I see. Okay. So, the people that are answering these calls and the text messages, is the staff consisted of mental health professionals? Are they trained professionals, or can you tell us a little bit of how the staff is trained?
So the staff is both volunteers, student interns who are entering the field of mental health and clinical work, as well as trained staff. And all of the crisis counselors on the hotline they receive the same training. It's a minimum of 40 hours of training plus S planning, intervention training, as well as warm transfer training to other lines. So they are especially trained just to be on the hotline. All right. So it's different. They're not clinicians. They are not therapists. We're not there to provide therapy, to be someone's friend. What we do is listening is called befriending. And we're not there to be someone's friend, though. Befriending is listening 90% of the time and talking 10% of the time. So that's important, right? Because when are you ever invited to call, text, or chat somewhere and you're told that you can share whatever you like confidentially, not be judged, not be told what to do, and you are in the lead as far as what you want to say and how long you want to say it, right? So we want to make sure too that people know that if you are not in crisis, we might have to take other calls or other texts or chats, and I hope you understand that. So we'll provide you with the necessary support that you need for a few minutes or more, and then have to get back to the calls that might be from someone who's at more imminent risk of danger to themselves or someone else. So just know that too. But you are invited to call back or text back or chat back anytime you need us.
So it is kind of more of a continuing, it's not necessarily a friend relationship, but at least a lending ear for somebody to feel comfortable, somebody who's maybe not comfortable with outside therapy or who can't afford outside therapy. They can call for like an instant problem they might be having, or idolizations that they're having. They can just kind of call to kind of satisfy or to lower their heightened crisis and in the moment. Is that correct?
That's right. So, whatever crisis they're experiencing, whatever anxiety, depression, whatever issue they are calling about, maybe they're worried about school. Maybe they're worried about relationships that they might be having, romantic, family, friend relationships. Maybe someone is concerned about going for a job interview or applying to college. Anything you would cause anyone some sort of level of distress, you can call about. And we are not going to diagnose you, nor do we provide you with any sort of medical advice. You can call if you've already been diagnosed with something, if you have already something around your mental health or physical health, if you already see a therapist. That's okay. It does not matter. You can call us to relieve your distress. Anyone can call for any reason at all. We want to make sure that you are feeling better at the end of the call. I can tell you, Dre, that we receive 40,000 calls at our hotline alone here in Massachusetts, and we only answer for half of the state. We just took on the text and chat for all of Massachusetts. Today was our first day live. So I can tell you that out of 40,000 calls that we receive, 80% of the people who call us tell us they feel better at the end of the call. That makes such a difference to the work that we do, knowing that we are helping so many people, right? That success rate. They can call back tomorrow with the same issue or something else. That's okay. But at that moment, we have helped diffuse the situation, whatever they are feeling.
That is that is just great news that you've extended the chapter out and that mental health awareness is being spread because there's such a stigma sometimes around mental health issues. A lot of people, I've heard this saying before that you cannot pray away cancer, so you cannot pray away mental health issues. And I believe that to a core because I myself have I suffer from mental health issues. I suffer greatly from generalized anxiety disorder. And there's, of course, a huge breadcrumb trail that comes with having that. And there's past trauma. So what happens if somebody needs assistance still or support after the call or the text? What should they do at that point?
Okay. So during the call, if they need support, what we can provide, if they're in crisis and they need crisis intervention or rescue, I'll tell you the steps we take, and then after I'll share what we do. So if someone is in crisis and they are not at the point where they are imminent risk of S, then we can put them through to a warm transfer phone call, we call it, to mobile crisis intervention, where they can meet with a clinician over the phone, do an assessment, and the clinician and the caller or texter or chatter will decide what to do next, okay, together, whether it's being seen in the local community or at a community behavioral health center or at the person's home or coffee shop or library. If you're at imminent risk of hurting yourself or someone else, we can have rescue sent out to you, and we will do that. We only do that for 1% of our callers. 11% of our callers at the outset of the call tell us they are suicidal, but we only call rescue for 1% of the callers. And that's a big difference, right, between what people think 988 is and what it really is. And so we don't call for any sort of intervention unless someone actually needs it. We hesitate to get law enforcement involved unless someone is at the point where it's their ideation, their wanting to act upon something is actually a medical emergency, right? So we make sure that we understand what the person is going through, and we help them through the entire process of when we call for rescue and what to expect next. Now, after a phone call, what you can do on the phone call is safety plan with us. You can develop your own safety plan. We can email it or text it to you so that you have it with you. If you would like follow-up phone calls, we can provide that as well. Because if someone has said that they are feeling as if they're going to hurt themselves, but they're not at risk of doing that today, but we want to make sure they're safe, we can call them back and they agree to that, they consent to that. And we'll make 3 separate phone calls over the course of when they need it, usually over the course of a week. And that is very helpful to people. So we do that as well. Yep.
Okay. So it sounds like you really do an A through Z checklist sort of thing with all the callers and people who text in, which sounds very securing, very safe. I actually had the experience once to actually text in because I was feeling the set on effects of high anxiety. My anxiety shows up, number one, with the symptom of loneliness, great loneliness, like I'm the only person literally in the world. And so I didn't want to, quote unquote, burden any of my friends or family members to say, Yes, here I go again with my anxiety, because you do find yourself kind of overworking. Sometimes you feel like you've overworked or overstepped or overwhelmed your stay with your mental health issues, sometimes with family or friends who know that you may have be or that you may be suffering from depression, anxiety, or any other mental health issues, and you feel like, oh, here I go again with my same story. How do I approach it again? And so I decided to text in, and it was extremely helpful because it actually had I was able to have a conversation with somebody, literally telling them what I was going through. And they not only stayed on the line with me texting back, they suggested other groups as well that I could also become a part of to text more frequently. So I wouldn't clog up, say, for instance, people who needed immediate assistance, which I understand that those calls would take priority over somebody, like in my case, who just was having a panic attack, which is not to under kind of under, what's the word that I'm looking for, I'm not trying to minimize the panic attacks, but they're certainly great, and you feel like you're the only one who can't breathe and you feel alone, and but it was great to find that not only were they helpful, but they suggested other avenues as well. Now, I just wanted to kind of ask you a little bit of kind of a personal question, I guess. How do you oversee your own mental health when you're working with such a big crowd? I know that you have a big following on TikTok now and on all of your other platforms, and in your office or with your coworkers. How do you personally handle your mental health and trying not to have breakdowns or become too attached to some callers? How do you manage that?
Well, for our crisis counselors and anybody who works on our hotline or in text or chat in our agency, Samaritan South Coast, we have contracted with a licensed clinician who is there for our call takers, supervisors, staff, volunteers, interns, anyone who works in our agency, and they can make an appointment with that clinician at any time during the week, and they can see her once a week or during a group session once a month. So we have built into our agency a what we call a critical incident critical incident. Oh my goodness, a CISM. You might have to edit that. But a CISM therapist, and that's been very helpful to anybody who is on our hotline. And for me personally, working on my own mental health, right? We all have mental health. It's impossible not to because we all have brains. And what do I say every time we are on a live? If we talked about our mental health as much as we talk about our dental health, there'd be no stigma around it. Let's remember, we all experience mental health. It is impossible not to. And if you don't think that you've experienced any sort of mental health feelings yet in your life, you will, because your brain and your emotions and all of the chemicals that course through our bodies, right, when we are in fear or trauma or whatever we're experiencing, that level of feelings, emotions, anxiety, depression, sadness, etc., on and on, happiness, those are all feelings around mental health. So what I do personally for myself is I walk. I am engaged in a lot of different activities outside of work. Volunteer work helps me tremendously. Last night for it was a St. Patrick's Day dinner that we held at a local church, and we served 120 unhoused people, part of a group of friends that I'm with, that we put together that dinner and we're able to serve people. And that helps my mental health as well, giving back in the community, because even though my work is very much supporting others, I enjoy doing that on my free time as well. I'm a member of the Rotary Club. I have a close-knit family and a lot of friends too. But definitely taking care of myself is a priority, and we make it a priority for all of our call takers, supervisors, anybody who works at our agency or volunteers at our agency, just by having a clinician ready for us.
That sounds great. That sounds like you have a very, very busy life as well. So, can I ask you what motivates you, or what has motivated you to steer your life into helping others with their mental health and having this become your career?
Yeah. So I didn't start out in human services. I started out in museum studies. I was a history major in college, but I learned over the course of my career, when I worked for cultural organizations and when I worked for in government, that I really felt very driven toward working with more vulnerable populations. And so over the course of time, when this position opened up, it felt very right to me, because I have a background in fundraising and development and growing small nonprofit organizations into larger nonprofit organizations. And that's what was required for this work, because our agency was a very small agency. I was the only paid staff person when I was hired 7 years ago. We had only volunteers on, and our volunteers worked very, very hard, 15 hours a day, but we didn't cover the full 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. So over the course of time, 988 became law, and we were able to expand with additional funding from our Massachusetts Department of Public Health and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And so we were able to grow where we now have people who are working on our hotline, either paid staff, volunteers, or interns. We have 75 people at our agency now. So over the course of 7 years, we went from one paid employee and about 15 volunteers to 75 people. So the growth has been exceptionally fast, and the growth has been very worthwhile for our community who is seeking help, because we have seen an increase in calls over time, and particularly on 988, and we just took over the chat and text from the national organization, and we took that over for all of Massachusetts. And I shouldn't say take it over, we received the contract. It's a better way to put it, to answer that, the calls and the chats and texts. So my way here was because I had the nonprofit experience and learning that I really derived a great deal of satisfaction out of working with more vulnerable populations. And I now can't imagine doing anything else. So yeah, it's really rewarding work.
Yes, it is. It sounds like you were actually meant for this position in life. I just have a couple of more questions, and I really appreciate your time today. So you said that you've received the contract, so that's for the state of Massachusetts, and are there other chapters throughout the nation as well?
So 988 is available to anyone in the United States and in Canada. There are 988 agencies in every single state. Here in Massachusetts, there are 5 agencies that answer 988 phone calls. Now, we have the contract for text and chat for all of Massachusetts. So that is something new for us, and we're just getting started with that. But there is text and chat across the nation. So when I say we have the contract for Massachusetts, anybody across the United States can text or chat as well. And in Canada, you can text. So know that we just took that from that level of being answered at the national level to being answered statewide, because the real vision of 988 is to have a coordinated local response for anyone. So when you receive resources or referrals, you're getting them in your neighborhood. We're not going to provide you with something at the other end of the state or in a different state. So anywhere in the US. But here at Samaritan South Coast, we have a national program that we hold twice monthly. It's actually, there is one going on right now tonight. Twice monthly, it is our Safe Place program. It is for survivors of loss. Unique loss, the type of loss that we try to prevent, is a very unique loss that comes with a very unique type of grieving. And our peer-to-peer support group with our trained facilitators specializes in that grief that people are experiencing from losing someone to us. So that is a free, everything we provide is free. Everything we provide is free. 988 Safe Place is free, and our bully prevention activities here in our local community. But Safe Place is held virtually, and it is national for anyone in the US. But there are 988 centers everywhere you are in the United States and in Canada.
That is so impressive, and that is so helpful, because I wondered myself when I was texting in, I wondered, where are these people that I'm talking to, or what if someone is in a crisis, and how are they going to respond to 911 calls? How is that all coordinated and funneled through? And so that's good to know that there is a state chapter in each state here in the United States and as well in Canada. So how can someone go about maybe volunteering, or who'd like to participate in assisting funding even, or just for listeners who say, maybe this is something I could volunteer my time to in my own state? How can we go about doing that?
So if you want to volunteer, or if you're looking for a paid position, all of the different 988 centers across the United States have volunteers and paid staff, so that you know that. So you want to look at your statewide website and look for mental health, or for SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Health Services Administration, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. You can look at that, the national. You can look at our website, Samaritan's SoCo. I'm not redirecting TikTok. I hope that TikTok does not take that as a redirection. But Samaritan SoCo, and we are a completely virtual center. So we have a virtual office space. We all work remotely. And so we have people from all over the country who help us on our center. And most centers have some sort of hybrid work model. Not all, but most. And so you'll want to check out your statewide Department of Public Health, your government website, your state government website, SAMHSA, or you can just take a look at our site here. I really hope it doesn't redirect us, just saying. So doesn't look like that's happening. So that's a good thing. Now, the other thing is too, as far as donations, yes, we accept donations. We run on donations. We receive mostly government funding. It's not always the most stable of funding, right? So I am constantly raising money either from individuals, corporations, or from foundations. And it's tough, right? Because the economy is not where it's ideal for that level of support that we're looking for, but we do a little at a time. And I remind everybody here on TikTok that when we're on TikTok and we are part of the 988 CareCast, we are actually supporting the 988 hotline. Any GIFT that gets sent here gets put right back as a donation into our hotline, our National Safe Place program, and our bully prevention activities. And even just drumming up support, sending us those hearts, liking us, sharing this out with our friends, it's helping us reach more people. And awareness is part of how we raise funds. So if people want to make a donation, they can simply make a donation here on TikTok through our live. We have our goals up here, right up there, or go to our site, Samaritan SoCo, it's at our page where all of our carecasts are posted. Every single carecast that we have done since July is posted there, so you can take a look at our page here and get there to donations. The other thing is too, we have a shop on TT and we have a shop at Samaritan SoCo, and so you'll find all of the 988 official gear.
Nice, yes.
This is one of them. And any purchase that is made is a donation as well. We put that right back into supporting our hotline, the people who need us the most, the training that we have to provide for our crisis counselors and our supervisors, our safe place facilitators, and the work that we do out in the community with bully prevention activities.
Okay. Well, that is very helpful information for our listeners, because I have had many questions on our podcast as about what is 988 Care and how can it help the community, or how can it help individuals. And so I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to speak with you today, to be able to answer those questions for our listeners here at Yourself.Podcast and on 988 Care who join your lives as well, all of your new followers and all of your guests that you have on. I really appreciate all of the work that you do and all of the help that you guys offer, the patience that your staff brings to be able to handle mental health crisis, people who are having mental health crisis in their most vulnerable state, to be able to be patient with them and to help them with their needs and to continue the help even after their call. I really do appreciate what you do for individuals and everyone who's suffering that can reach out to you. I always feel, in fact, when I do our podcast recordings, we have a disclaimer on our podcast that redirects to you in case of mental health crisis that they may need even during our podcast. So I want to let you know that is posted on all of our episodes. And so hopefully we can spread the word of 988 Carecast as well. And like I said, I really appreciated your time today and your efforts in answering our questions that we have, to be able to post to our listeners as well, that 988 Carecast is there because they care. And I really do appreciate all of your efforts and your staff and your live TikToks. I've been part of those TikToks those TikTok lives that are not only entertaining, but they make it to where you feel like mental health doesn't have to be this completely constricted, so serious thing. You can be free and let go with a softness and knowing that, hey, there are others out there that may be suffering like the rest of us, and that you can take a seat back and take a breather, and it's going to be okay for today, and that we need everyone to stay another day. And I'm so grateful for you, for this organization, what it does and how we can help, how we can manage, and how we can direct people to your lives, to your TikTok accounts, to your websites, however we need to. And I know that our listeners will be so appreciative of this interview today, because they've had so many questions about your organization. So I appreciate it very much. I hope you have a fabulous day and continue on doing the work that you're doing. We at Yourself.Podcast certainly would like to extend our invitation. If you'd also like to be a guest on our podcast, you can reach us through TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, and you can leave us a comment, leave us anything that you'd like to discuss. Also, if you'd like for us to come back and meet with Darcy again with new questions that you may have of what they offer, the services that they offer, and what Darcy does to motivate her staff, and what the staff does as well to motivate each other, and to keep this mental health pathway clear for anyone who feels like they need to take steps into that pathway. So we'd like to extend a thank you to everyone who watches today and everybody who's participated in your live and in our live today. Thank you so much. And I will say that's a wrap for today. And thank you again, Darcy, for including us with your live today. And we will be posting this, like I said, next Friday. And hopefully you will gain even more support. And hopefully we will too. And if you ever need to reach out to 988 Care, Darcy, can you let them know how to reach you?
Sure. Here on TikTok, I am at Darcy.Lee13, the 988 Carecast. Samaritan SoCo is our other place that you can go out there on the web. And 988, if you need support for yourself around your mental health or someone else, 988, you can call, text, or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just 3 numbers away.
Thank you so much, Darcy. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.